Yeah, we're just gonna roll with this. We are making an editing lasagna. You'll come across a chapter that you love, that reminds you why you wanted to write the story in the first place, why the characters were so important to you. Hello and welcome to the first editing video of 2025. And more excitingly, welcome to the first editing video of my life. For those of you who are new here, my name is AJ. I'm an aspiring author currently working on my fantasy debut, Project Darkwater. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I've tried to film this video a couple of times throughout the week. It's currently Friday, January 17th. And I've been trying since Monday. Life definitely got in the way, but there is a little bit more control today. We're gonna edit draft 1 to be specific, and to get really technical, I need to get through chapters 31 and 32 to keep on track with my current editing schedule. Now, I started Monday about 7 chapters behind where I needed to be to keep in line with the editing schedule I set for myself in order to send Project Darkwater to a critique partner. But after some kind of rough trial and error, I think I finally have a routine that's working. I've been able to push throughout the week, and I think that I am on pace to catch up to where I need to be by the end of the week, as long as I get through chapter 31 and 32 today. That is the goal. Now, I'll probably make an actual sit down chatty video about the editing process, but just to give you an overview of how I'm approaching it, and again, this approach was also developed through rough trial and error. I'm starting from the big picture, the foundational stuff, and then I am layering my editing process and working my way towards the brushstrokes. So we're going to go from big to small, but not at the same time. We are making an editing lasagna or an editing layer cake. We do not try to shoot for perfection on the first round. Let me just give you an example of what I mean and what this approach is like. I'm really targeting the cement of my plot for this round of edits. So I want to see if there are any cracks in the foundation of my novel, of the story, and then that is what's going to get ironed out at this first pass. I'm not looking to make brushstroke changes, so I'm not looking to get the prose perfect. I'm not really looking to make sure that the subplots are perfect at this moment. I want to make sure that from beginning to end, I understand the bones of my story. And then we can build from there on the other passes. And what this actually looks like is I will go chapter by chapter, and I'm trying not to jump into different chapters, really just go from beginning to end in one pass. I will read through a chapter first. We'll make no changes on that first read through, but I will take notes to help reorient myself to the chapter, since it's been a while that I've visited the chapters of my book, especially in the first half of the novel. So I'll reorient myself with the purpose, with the goal of that chapter, and then take notes on whether it's going to need to A, be taken out completely, because I've had to already take out complete chapters, or if it needs extensive revisions to coincide with the current plot line, or if it's pretty good and I can potentially just make minor tweaks and then move on. So that's just the notes that I take on the first pass. Then when I have a bit of a game plan for how I want to approach editing that chapter, I will go through, again, start to finish for that chapter, And when I come across a crack in the foundation, I'll fix that crack in the foundation. I will rewrite a character decision. I will bring in information needed to go from plot point A to B, or I will take out or include a dialogue that needs to be there just to get the big primary storyline to flow. If I do see anything egregious in the sentence structure, in a misspell, I will definitely fix that. But if there are a couple of paragraphs that are clunky but get the job done, or dialogue sections that are not maybe the most organic but still gets the job done, I'm just going to make that a comment or a note to myself to fix later. I find that if I try to tweak everything, I end up in this spiral of just staying in the same chapter from beginning to end, waiting for perfection, because it's very easy to fall into a perfection cycle, especially when you know that you're sending it to someone, but then you'll end up editing one chapter for 2 or 3 days. That's not working right now. So I have to actively make sure I don't do that. And the way I don't do that is to just note something and then I will come back to it later. And if I have the time to go through another layer of my editing cake, then I will go through and see if I can make the story flow just a little bit more before I send to a critique partner. But that's really it. That is the process in a nutshell of how I'm approaching these edits. Now let me just say, editing draft 1 is a humbling experience. I have come across entire chapters that were just so bad. The writing was not good, and when you have an entire chapter that you don't like, that you, the writer, author, don't like, it's so easy to fall into this pit of, why did I ever think I could do this? You know, what was the point of trying to write this story? And then you take the entire chapter out. You're taking maybe a couple thousand words out of your entire story because it just wasn't so great. And then after that, you'll come across a chapter that you love, that reminds you why you wanted to write this story in the first place, why the characters were so important to you. And it really is a roller coaster when you're going through a rough draft of draft 1. And it feels like a love-hate relationship with the book. Like, I love it, but there are sections that I hate. And I think that's pretty normal. Am I potentially in an enemies to lovers situation with my book right now? Fortunately, I do think realizing what I'm not liking about the bad writing and what I'm liking about the good writing, since it is my writing, is I am learning and growing through this process as well. So I'm very hopeful that at the end of this, I'm going to have a draft that I am comfortable and happy with. And also, I have to accept that it's not going to be the perfect story at this point. The first draft of your story is likely not going to be the best part of your story, that it's likely going to be the worst draft of your story. I'm going to go read through chapter 31. Gonna try to figure out how I want to approach it, and then I will chat with you guys soon. Okay, we have a little bit of a good news, bad news situation. The good news is that I read through chapters 31 and 32, and I'm actually pretty pleased with their purpose and their placement. I'm also happy with what happens overall in the chapter. Of course, there are a couple of things that I need to rework because it's just clunky, but that will be during my second pass through the manuscript. The bad news, a couple of my characters are about to make choices that are important for the plot, but the reason they make these choices are actually for something that's supposed to happen in part 2. Basically, I need to draft a couple of scenes to put in earlier chapters so that these decisions and these actions don't come out of nowhere. I don't want to do that right now. I don't want to draft new scenes These aren't complete chapters, they're just a couple of scenes that I need to integrate into earlier chapters so that things make sense. But I'm not ready to switch gears into a drafting mindset, if that makes sense. I'm just gonna note the scenes that have to happen, and I'm going to continue and probably look through and review chapter 33. It's just, I'm not ready to switch mental gears to write these scenes because I am gonna have to write fresh paragraphs and conversations to put into part 2. And right now I'm at a decent flow in terms of the editing and revising process. So I'm going to continue revising for the rest of the afternoon, and maybe at some point in the evening when I'm feeling a little bit more creative, when I have a better creative well source, then I will draft those new scenes. Okay, I hope any of that made sense. And I'm probably gonna move on to chapter 33. So we're on 33. I know I'm trying not to go back and forth, but this might be something I have to take care of before I continue to move on, because I don't want to forget that there are scenes I have to put in part 2 so that some very important actions make sense in part 3. Okay, let's get this done. I will chat with you guys later. Okay, we are finally winding down for the rest of the day. I did manage to make it through chapter 33, and I have to say, I'm very happy with how that chapter turned out. I don't have a lot of structural or developmental notes that I have to work on, so I don't think the chapter is going to undergo major revisions for this round. I do have to say, it could just be my own bias because chapter 33 is definitely a chemistry building chapter between the two primary characters. I can't promise it's going to stay in the final version of the book, but it is a scene that I will probably keep at least close to my heart because I'm just very happy with it. I managed to go for a quick walk, and occasionally when I get that change of scenery, sometimes some ideas pop into my head. So I have an idea for a way to approach one of the scenes that have to be integrated into part 2. And I'm experiencing a little bit of a push and a pull right now. I do want to continue editing just because I was very happy with chapter 33, so I finished it a little earlier than I anticipated, but I'm also feeling a tug to start drafting some of those scenes. So I'm going to listen to that instinct, and I think for the rest of the evening, I'm going to work on writing some of the missing scenes that need to be integrated into the early parts of part 3 and the later parts of part 2. And that's going to wind down my creative productivity for the day. That wraps it up. I would love to hear how it's going for you guys. If any of you are also revising, if you have any tips or tricks or just overall what your process might be, I am very happy to hear all of that. If you feel so inclined to support an aspiring author and small little channel, please hit the like button or subscribe if it suits your fancy. I'm very happy to have you guys in this little corner of the internet. And with that, I hope you guys are doing well. I will catch you guys in the next one. Happy writing.